Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Art 195, 3D modeling for animation for the spring semester 2022. This is our second meeting, and I want to begin by asking all of you, do you have any questions so far? There's a few things that I want to review from Monday, and also make sure that you have access to all of the video tutorials so you can move forward with the projects. No questions? None? If you want to talk, let me know and I will change you to panelists so that you can speak. Or if you need to share your screen. Okay, well then we'll wait. So, many of you, probably all of you who are in attendance right now have emailed me, and I sent you an email inviting you to share our Google Drive folder. So I want to repeat that again for those of you who aren't attending that hopefully look at this recording at a later date, just to make sure that you know that if I go back to, for example, and then maybe you don't know how to get to the shared list, that, for example, this is my email, the Google Gmail that I have everybody send it to, send you. This is the Gmail account that I have all of you email me. It's kirkmillerart@gmail.com. And if I want to access my Google Drive folders, it's very simple. So that if you've received the invitation, you want to know where it is, click on this little button in the upper right-hand corner, and it has a total of 9 little dots here, or little widgets. And these are the ancillary programs here. So if I scroll down here, you'll see right in the middle, almost at the very bottom, actually maybe it's midway, it says Drive. If I click that, it takes me to my Google Drive account. Now, I have a lot of different shared folders, one for each class that I teach, each semester. The ones that I have in orange here are the ones that pertain to this semester. So, for example, if we look in Art 195 for the spring 2022 semester, if I double click on that, these are all of you who have emailed me and are participating. This is where you upload your finished files, your assignments into your personal folder. And if I were to open, let's see, who's here today? How about Aaron? Aaron, did you email me? Okay, I can see in here. Okay, that's fine. Just to remind everybody, who did I misspell? Oh, Gonzalez. Okay. So that's Enrique Gonzalez. I'll take care of that a little bit. This one right here, Enrique Gonzalez. Did you change it? Oh, it's Emilio. Oh, here it is. Okay, so fixed. Yeah, you have access to it. So if I've misspelled your name and going through all this, then go ahead and fix it. But anyway, I want to make sure that you have access to this folder. It's really important so that when you complete the projects, that you upload them correctly, and I can grade them and give you feedback and get back to you. So anyway, that's where I wanted to start. The other thing that I wanted to do too is that so that you can move forward with class, is to make sure that everybody understands how to get access to the videos that you'll need for the class. Now, depending on whether you're using Blender or you're using Lightwave, I have video tutorials for both. Okay. If we go on my website, Kirk's Classes, and you click on the link to video tutorials, it will take you to my YouTube channel. Let's start with the lessons that you'll need, the videos that you'll need for this semester. Now, I've recorded them for the past 2 years. So the most recent ones that you'll want should be, yeah, it says Art 195 3D modeling for animation fall 2021. These are the most recent videos right here. So if you want to look at the whole playlist, view full playlist, we can do that. So here's our orientation video, the one that everybody should have watched. Here's lecture 2, which is what you should be watching today, which is the tour of Lightwave. Basically shows you how to work with Lightwave and kind of get your bearing, because it is a little bit different. Actually, it's a lot different than Blender in many respects, but there are many of the same features, but it's done differently. And then this next week, you should be doing these tutorials, working with primitives and building the table and lamp. Okay. So this is throughout the whole semester. And then after the table and lamp is completed, you'll have access to all of these tutorials for the reboot character. And then after the reboot character, I talk about individual elements when you're working on the toy assignment, individual things kind of like advanced surfacing techniques, working with lighting, and that sort of thing. And then we move on to organic modeling. I have several tutorials on, not by myself, but one that I've recorded for all of you on modeling an organic head. And then later in the semester, while you're working on your toy, you're working on your finished project, I have these additional video tutorials just so that you learn more features, more tools in Lightwave. Now, if you want to look back to an earlier semester, that's okay too. So we can go back. Most of them are identical or the same, but if you want to go back, and this was modeling for the fall. Now, yeah, the order of these may change, but just look at the name. See, this was for the fall and spring 2020 and spring 2021. So again, these are very similar. If I click back in here and we look at the,
what does it mean to be a featherless, two-legged?
I don't want that. I apologize. Let me go back and do that again. I just want to view the full playlist. That will make it easier. That's what I was trying to do. And you can see it's pretty much all the same. I do have, for all of you, I moved this around, but how to install the trial version. This is in now also in modules. So we have our orientation video. We have how to install trial version of Lightwave. If you plan on purchasing Lightwave, you will need to prove to them that you're a student, and that means that you'll have to send them documentation, namely your photo ID or probably a class schedule. So, there's, similar, almost identical with some differences. But I encourage you to look at them. Okay. So these are all the tutorials that I have shown you. So that's for those of you who are using Lightwave. Those of you who are working in Blender, I have two playlists for you. The one right here, let's go ahead and view this full playlist. This is the one that you'll probably follow the most. This was done for Blender 2.8. But to give you an overview of Blender and where everything is located, you'll watch this tutorial where everything is in Blender 2.8. Here's another good one. This is 2 hours long. But again, it's similar to me giving you an overview of Lightwave, but it's learning Blender, a step-by-step beginner's tutorial for 3D artists. This is over 2 hours long. Once you've completed these and you're familiar with Blender, then what I want you to do is I want you to do the hammer assignment. There's 2 videos here. So this is about an hour long. That's equivalent to our table and lamp. It's just an introductory, very simple model to get you started. And then afterwards, here are all of these tutorials for the donut. I want you to complete those. Now, you don't have to do, I have these here, making a cabin in the woods, and just, I think these are more informative. But same with the tutorial for how to make a teddy bear and that sort of thing. I want you to focus on making the donut. Now, for those of you who have installed Blender 3.0 and are still doing the donut assignment, then that's what this one is here. So if we look at this full playlist, now this it's a little bit different than the other, but it, again, shows you some of the new features available in Blender. This guy has been using, I think his name is Andrew, been using Blender just like I've been using Lightwave for 20 years. And so he's extremely familiar with it. And I think, well, I don't know the man, we have very similar views on learning 3D modeling, and it's kind of project-based. Whatever you need to learn, want to do, then focus on what's needed for that particular project. So if you want to build a donut, what do you need to know? If you want to build a room, if you want to build a character or whatever, then learn what you have to. Now, unfortunately, for those of us using Lightwave, there are fragmented tutorials available on YouTube. There's nothing on lynda.com anymore. There was one course that you could watch on Lightwave and Lynda, but not anymore. But there are myriad of tutorials for specific projects. If you want to build a head in Blender, if you want to build a character, any number of things. And the same applies to learning specific things, other things in Blender. Let's see, let's go do that right now. I'm going to say, I'll just put in Blender tutorials. And see where that gets us. So if I just put in simple Blender tutorials, now some of these you don't want to watch this on NBC. I don't know why that's coming up. But anyway, here's the ones that I've just shown you. Making characters fast in Blender. So if you're interested in that. This one I've done before, this little isometric bedroom, it's so-so, some are better than others. For special effects, all sorts of things here, okay? Environments in Blender, you name it. So if you want to learn something specific, then do a more pointed Google search and you'll find it. So let me go back. Let's go back. Actually, there we go. Back to my tutorials here. Okay, so that should get everybody started for this week and moving on to next week. To look at these tutorials and make sure that you have the software installed. If you have any issues with the software, please let me know. I've had questions from students for both. Last semester, for whatever reason, Blender was crashing on their computer. I have students who had problems installing Lightwave. It's not as straightforward as installing and running programs like Photoshop and Illustrator, all of the Adobe products. So it's a little bit more complex. So if you have questions in that regard, please let me know. Again, when you're working on your project, specifically, well, either one. If you're working in Blender, I will point you to tutorials that will help you out. If you're working in Lightwave, I personally will try to help you. And if I can't, then I will point you, give me a day or so, and I'll point you to a tutorial that will help you. Okay. Let's see. Any questions before? Because that's pretty much all that I wanted to cover today. Just to make sure that everybody, where everything is, that if I go ahead and we go to our class here in 3D modeling for animation on Canvas, that again, here's the email that I would prefer that you use. Here's my website. Here's the link to the required orientation video. And here's a link to the live webinars that if I click there, then we scroll down and we go to Art 195 and here we have it. So for those of you who haven't been familiar with my approach to teaching these classes using both my personal website and Canvas, then this lets you know. Again, if we go inside, I'm in Canvas here and I want to go to, where do I want to go? I want to go to modules. So again, modules are kind of like chapters in a book. And again, it's redundancy. Here's the link to the orientation video. For all of you, here is an addendum that I made because I opened it up so that you can use either Lightwave or Blender. Okay, and again, here's a link to the Blender video playlist. Here's a link to the 3.0 playlist. Here's a link to Art 195 video playlist. So I try to sprinkle it over several locations so that you have access to it all. All of these videos here are specifically ones that I have done. Okay, they aren't the ones that are done by outside people, that I've linked to from YouTube. So if you want to go, and here's the table and lamp assignment that we'll be working on. If you want to look at the orientation video to get you acclimated to Lightwave, then you would click on here and you can watch it from here, or you can go back to YouTube. You're looking at this as a YouTube video played inside Canvas. I prefer going directly to YouTube, but I'm just trying to make it available to all of you. Okay. And then at the very bottom, here is a link to the video tutorials for the Blender assignments so that it's redundancy. It's all built in. What else? I wanted to go back make sure that everybody understands what projects you're doing this semester. So I'm going to look at the student view real quick. This is my view. We scroll down in here. Okay. Let's look at the home page. So let's start with the advanced class. Brenda, you're here. So that you will have 3 independent projects. And if you want to communicate with me by email or you want to in the chat, let me know what you plan on doing. But the first project you will be working maybe 5 to 6 weeks on it. And it should be a mechanical object of some sort, something that was machine made. So you'll have a couple weeks to build it, 2 to 3 weeks to build it. You'll have a week to surface it, and you'll have another week to finalize the renders and to make sure that the lighting works and your staging and that sort of thing. And decide whether you want a background or you want, what kind of background you want, what kind of environment you want to place it in. The second one that you should be working on will be, you have to decide what kind of organic model you want to build. Okay. And that can be going back and doing the tutorials that I've made available for you to build the character head. If you just want to do that, that would be fine. And then for the third project, you'll be working on an environment, either an interior or an exterior of some sort. It can be realistic or it can be cartoony. It can be anime in its approach. I don't care. I just want all of you to really immerse yourself in the program and in building these things so that you can really come up with something that appeals to you, not necessarily to me. I want it to be done well, but I want you to pick subjects that are of interest to you. So these are the assignments that I have, the ones for Lightwave here. They won't let me put both. So here's the table and lamp, here's the reboot, here's the toy. These are when all of these are due. And the same would be true for those of you working in Blender. Now, for your final project in Blender, one of the things that I have done is that if we go back here and we look at the Blender 2.8 tutorial list, there are some additional tutorials at the end. If you want to do making, let's see, this is kind of an intermediate level project. And this is building, it's not that interesting a subject, but it's how would you build this, what is it called? It's a anvil. And here are all the tutorials available for that. So if you want to make that your final project, be my guest. Here are all the tutorials for that. There's a total of, parts 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Also, there's another one that he has that I thought was very good. If you want to build, again, a mechanical kind of object, then here's one for a chair that he made. Okay. If you want to build a character, then if you can find tutorials to follow, if you're still learning Blender and enjoying it, but don't feel confident to do something on your own, then that might be a useful one. There's other tutorials that I've made available for you too, because lighting and 3D modeling is really important. It really can make or break a project that you're working on. The same with surfacing. Make sure that the surfaces look really good. And I really focus on that in my video tutorials for Lightwave. So these are useful to watch too, that even when you're not working on a project or you want to take a break from a project, to view these tutorials for Blender. And either donut is okay, the 2.8 or the 3.0, but I want to make sure that we're available for all of you. Okie doke. So close that up and we'll go back. Anyway, that about wraps it up for what I had today. What I will do next Monday is to see how all of you are progressing. And if you want to share your screen with me, okay, let me know. Yvette.
Hello.
Go ahead.
I had a question. Last time on Monday, I didn't see that there was a webinar, and I didn't attend it live. And I was wondering if I could stay in the class. Like, was it necessary to attend
Yeah, no,
the
you're
live?
still in the class. I did not drop you. And if you
Okay.
want to view the webinar that I gave, I did record it. And so again, if we go back to here, I'll go, if we look under here, under Kirk's classes, and we go to video tutorials, there is, for our class, Art 195 and Art 190B, this is for spring 2022. If we look at the full playlist, this is where I'm going to put this recording. It's right here. There's my general orientation video that all of my students are supposed to watch. And then for the individual lectures, touching base, whatever the webinars that I give for our class on Mondays and Wednesdays, I will post them here. What I'm talking about today will be posted here in about an hour or so after class is over.
Thank you.
Does that help you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So the first thing that you'll probably need to do is to email me at kirkmillerart@gmail.com. And in the subject, put your name, Art 195, and put Google Drive, and I will send you an invitation so that you can have access to our shared Google Drive folder.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Patrick.
Hi, Professor. I just wanted to ask you how do we submit work in progress pictures?
In progress or the final projects?
The in progress ones.
In the work in, wait a minute, say one more time, in progress or finished?
In progress ones.
Well, when you're in progress with a project, if you can attend the webinar, then we can talk about it when everybody leaves, if you want. Or we can, if you don't mind sharing it with everybody, we can talk about it there and I can critique it and give you feedback.
Okay.
If not, then what you can do is just simply post a rendering or individual files on our your shared Google Drive folder and email me to alert me that it's there. And then I'll either email you back with feedback, or we can set up an individual video or webinar so that we can talk with one another and work out any details there.
I see. Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Professor.
Sure. Okay. Emilio, hold on here. Or wait a minute, Enrique. Sorry. Enrique?
Hello. Okay, so if I recall correctly, the Blender and Lightwave assignments are different.
They are.
So where can we find the Blender assignments?
There were, okay, where I showed you here, let me go back. So if you go back to my playlist, my list of all the groups of videos that I have available, and you scroll down to Blender 2.8 tutorials, look at that full playlist. That's what I'm
Okay.
showing you now. this is what I just talked about. The first assignment that you'll be doing is the hammer. After you've watched these introductory tutorials to give you an overview of where everything is and a step-by-step instructions for, again, giving you an overview of Blender, then go ahead and do the hammer assignment. And then when you've completed the hammer assignment, then you'll do the donut. And there are step-by-step instructions for doing the donut. When the donut is complete, then there's one more part that I would like you to do. And that will be to also do the coffee cup.
All right.
And when you've completed those, then you'll have one more project, which will be the final project. And as I mentioned on Monday, that's an individual project. It will be entirely up to you. And that's true for both classes. I don't specify to students what they have to or they don't have to do. It just has to be an ambitious project. So if you like doing mechanical objects, then do something like that. If you want to try an organic object, try that. If you want to try an environment, try that. There's all sorts of things, but that's why you have almost 6 to 8 weeks to work on it. Because these projects, if they're done properly, require a lot of time, a lot of time. You need to set aside, if you break it down into thirds or fourths. So let's say I gave you 6 weeks, or I'll say 8 weeks to work on a project. It sounds like, well, shoot, I can just kind of skate through this. It will take you a good 2 to 3 weeks to build a model. And then it will take you a good week or two to properly surface it, to make it look really, really good, to make sure that you have all your, if you're using the node editor, then make sure that all the properties of the materials look really accurate. And then you'll need another week or two to light it and to do test renders and make sure that they work, that they, everything looks as you would like it to look. Because things don't always look the first time around the way that you thought they would. And it requires some troubleshooting on your part. So, they become really kind of tedious in that respect. I guess the best case scenario that I can use is this particular project that I worked on this past year. It took me a long time to build all of this and to light it and to do the renders. It took, for each of these renders, it took a good 12 to 15 hours due to the complexity and the number of lights that I used. I used IES lights, which simulate the lights that you would use in the real world. They're not just simply, point lights, or they're not simply, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of lights, but I can't think at the moment of another one that you use. And, to make sure that everything is lighted properly, and it takes time to render them. So, that's for the final project. It's where everything kind of comes together. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, I think I get it. So the assignments are the things on the 2.8 tutorial, and we upload them to the Google Drive or in place of the Lightwave assignments.
You upload the final render to Google Drive. The final render is like taking a snapshot of it. For those of you who have taken Chris's animation class, it would be a QuickTime video that you would probably save, because it involves it involves the element of time. But we're just doing still images. So when you do and you watch the videos, you'll see that the last step will set up the camera and the rendering properties to do render frame. So for example, let me move this. I'll show you something that I'm working on at the moment. So let's look at this. I'm going to move these aside. And I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close out of this. Okay, let's go ahead and there we go. So this is a model. Looks like a little birdhouse, doesn't it? But what it is a little gallery. I don't know if you, in various neighborhoods, you may have seen where people have these little public portable libraries where you can walk by and check out a book, and then you can come back and return the book, or you can maybe add to their collection of books. Well, what this is going to do is this is going to be a little gallery that will be in our front yard, and then we'll have shows. So this is the model for us building it. And this is just, a simple textured model in Modeler. And then when I'm done with the model, then I will send it over to layout. And so I'm going to switch to layout now. And I'm going to switch from the back view to the perspective view, or no, I'm going to go to camera view. I have two different cameras, in fact. So I'm going to switch to the original camera, and this is in wireframe, and I have a background image of my house. But now if I switch to VPR, you're going to begin to see what it's going to look like when it's fully rendered. Okay. So as you can tell, I haven't even rendered it yet, but it will take time. If I were to show you the finished renderings, this is what an interior of that one looks like. This is what the exterior looks like fully rendered. A couple of others. And, this is a very simple project. It only took me a couple of days to build and to surface and everything. But the more things that I add, the longer it's taking to render, the longer it's taking to revise the objects. So this would be a good example of a mechanical object, but at the same time, it would apply to an environment. And if that's something that interests you, these are the kinds of things that interest me. This is an example. This is a very finished rendering of, from one of my projects this past year. And hopefully they look pretty real, these environments. I don't know if they do or they don't. I've looked at them so long, I can't tell anymore.
So,
okay.
So no, I'll let you go first.
Say again, Enrique.
Okay, so we take a screenshot of the vendor, put it in the
Well, it's
Google
not a
Drive.
screenshot. It's not a screenshot. So, and whether you're using Blender or Lightwave, this is the live model right now. When you're done, and again, when you watch the tutorials, you'll understand better that I will switch to the render mode. I'll go ahead and let's look at the camera, and I'm going to look at camera properties. And under camera properties, it will determine, the focal length of the camera. I'm going to go back to 24 millimeters for this. No, I don't want to do that. Let's go back to 12. I got to switch to camera mode here. There we go. Okay. So here are the camera properties. This will give us the focal length of the camera. It will determine minimum, maximum samples, and it determines the size that I want to render this. This will be 1280 pixels by 720. That's all you need to do, but I've multiplied it by 200%. Okay, and then when I'm ready to go, I come over here where it says render frame. And you'll do something very similar in Blender, and you'll render it. And as soon as I click render frame, this will pop up and it will begin the process of rendering it into a two-dimensional still image, refined image. You see how it's progressing? And it doesn't happen quickly. For simple models, it will happen very quickly. For more complex models, it will not. And this is just the initial stages. It will take, I'm trying to look here to see how long the last one for this particular project took an hour and a half to render. And once that's done, once you have the final rendering, then you'll go back up and you'll save that file as a JPEG and or Photoshop file. And that's what you'll upload to Google Drive.
So
yeah, I don't necessarily need to see the original Blender files. I don't necessarily need to see the original Lightwave files. I just need to see the final render.
okay.
But
So
if you're having issues with it or you need help, then at that time we'll share screens and you'll show me what you're working on. Okay. And I can work with you. See, that's just the first step. So I'm going to go ahead and abort this. There we go. And this is the final rendering of the interior of that little gallery. And it's this finished rendering. This is what it looks like after it's gone through all of the motions. And then I can come up here to File, and you can see all the different file types that I can save it as. That's in Lightwave. In Blender, you can probably save it in just as many file types as well. But I just need JPEG or Photoshop file. So it's very different than a screenshot. Very different.
okay. So we put the final render into the Google Drive, and that's it.
That's it. Yep.
I think I understand.
Okay. Again, I think it will become clearer to you and everybody else. If you watch the videos carefully, and again, I stumble over my words sometimes. I make mistakes in my demonstrations and that sort of thing. But if you come back here, and this is something I don't think I mentioned on Monday, if you hold on here. Let's find one here. Let's look at this playlist. This is for fall and spring. So if we were to watch this tour of Lightwave with primitives, this is a little over an hour, this video. And if I go ahead and we begin to watch it, if you want to really speed through this, you can. There are tools in.
What if you could make a full-time living online, getting paid for your advice?
Come on.
You might not know this, but
There we go. If you click on this little gear here, let me skip ads. There we go. If you click on this little gear, you can change the playback speed. Okay, you can view it at the normal speed, or you can increase it all the way up to 2 times. So when you're watching it, if you want to speed through a good part of it and then slow it down or stop and repeat at any time, you can do that. Because there are hours and hours of these video tutorials that I've made. So if we were in class, you would be listening to them just as like you are right now. but sometimes they get, can become a bit tedious. So the advantage to watching the videos rather than sitting here and listening to me is that you can speed it up and then you can slow it down, and you can speed it up and slow it down. And if you have to rewind it, you can rewind it and play it again at certain parts. So the more you watch the videos, both for Blender and or Lightwave, the ones that I've made for Lightwave, it will become clearer what you need to do. But that is the basic process. And again, watching the introductory videos will tell you exactly the process that you go through. You go through building the model, surfacing it, then lighting, adjusting your lighting, and then you do a final render. And then you're done. Those are all the steps that you go through. And Lightwave, there's two applications that you use. You use the modeler and you use the layout, which is a scene editor to build your final scene. And Blender, it's all built into one. You're just clicking on different buttons to display it differently. It's not separate applications. So that's where the one of the biggest differences is. Okie doke.
I had a question.
Huh?
I had a question. For Blender, I was interested in using it when I signed
Okay.
up for the class, and I was wondering if we had to email you in order to use it.
Are you sure? Well, let me check. I will email me again.
Okay.
And let me check here. Is it under Yvette?
Yes, but I haven't emailed you yet about asking about it. I have emailed you before, but I never received a response on them.
Okay, well, let me try again. Because I'm looking here. Oh, I know why. Because you put it. Are you in my Photoshop class as well?
Yes, I was in your Photoshop class.
But you're not now.
Not now.
Okay, well, I should have. When did I receive that? Okay, my mistake. I didn't respond to it. I don't show it.
Sure, I could email you again.
Okay, and I will be sure and get in touch with that. When did you send that to me?
On Monday.
Oh,
But I haven't emailed you about Blender yet, since I was still
that's
thinking
okay.
about
You're welcome to use it.
it. Okay.
Just know that there are different set of projects for Blender than Lightwave.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I will send you, when you email me, I will send you the invitation to Google Drive.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure thing. Okie doke. So that takes us pretty much finishes today. Let me look at participants. And I'm going to go ahead and that's it. So I'll post this on my Google Drive or on YouTube. So if you want to review any of this, or if you have any further questions, please be in touch. And if I don't, as it happened with Yvette, if I don't get in touch with you, just email me again. Okay. So, okay, I will hang around a few minutes, but if you want to leave, you're welcome to. And I will, we will not, Monday is a holiday, so there will be no webinar on Monday. We'll have one on Wednesday. Okay. But still, feel free to email me and I'll get back to you. Anybody else?
Maybe one more question.
Okay.
So the Lightwave and Blender assignments are due at the same time, right?
Yes,
All right.
but
Thank
you're
you.
only doing one or the other. You're not doing both.
I was just making sure so I can track the due date.
Yeah, try to follow the due dates that I posted for Lightwave, and then figure, okay, I need to get, when the table and lamp is done, then I should have the hammer done. When the reboot character is done, then I should have the donut done. When the toy is done, then I should have the donut and coffee cup completed. And then again, for your final project, that's open-ended. We will talk about that more around midterm. Because those are individual, the final projects are individual projects. We continue in Lightwave to introduce new tools. There's new tools available for you to learn in Blender as well. But again, you'll be responsible for doing the final project. Okie doke.
All right, that's it. Thank you. And I'll
Okay.
see you later.
Okie doke. Okay, I'm going to sign off. And pause the recording